Dan, as I celebrated Michigan winning the title last night, go Big Ten, first Big Ten title in like 23 years in March Madness. I
Oh, they
do have
were
to,
well represented in the tournament and even the
yeah,
Final Four.
the
It's pretty cool.
Big Ten.
The Elite Eight.
They're on fire right now with all the NIL changes. No one has benefited more than the Big Ten. And I got to thinking about how we are right now in the really lucky part of the NFL offseason. Like the NFL season ends in February, and then you kind of go straight into March Madness. And now we have the Masters this week. And then we'll have the NFL draft in about 2.5 weeks. And then that's where the scaries, right? That's the Sunday scaries start to show up, right? Because then it's like, all right, yeah, you have playoff basketball if you're into playoff basketball. You have playoff hockey if you're into playoff hockey. But this is still that kind of real sweet spot of the offseason where I'm like, I'm good. I'm like, I feel good about the sports I'm watching. I love the Masters. I feel good talking draft and NFL. We still had some free agency stuff. We'll talk about Kirk Cousins. But then I just keep thinking, I'm like, those months of like May and June are going to come and we're going to be like, oh my God, this is, all we got is the Cubs. Yeah. All we got is the Cubs losing another starting pitcher for the season. And I'm struggling. So enjoy this little run right now. I love this little stretch of sports. I like the NBA playoffs. I'll probably, get pumped up for the NBA playoffs once they get going. But I feel like we're still in this kind of like sweet spot of the NFL offseason right now. And shout out to Michigan. Congrats to Big Blue. I picked them, so I felt good about that. They to me were the no-brainer. I felt like they were the best team in the Big Ten. I felt like the Big Ten was the best conference all season. And their size was just and it wasn't size like that Oliver Reveau or whatever for Florida who's like the 7'9" guy who doesn't play. Their size like usable, great size. Like Illinois. Size.
Yeah, I was gonna say Illinois had
usable size. Yeah, so
they
I
couldn't
really
shoot when it mattered in the Final Four. They couldn't.
I really love the state of college football and basketball right now. It's really competitive. It's really fun. You have guys sticking around because of the money. I know there's some issues, right? Like it's not perfect, but I really enjoying at least competitively all of it. I don't want them to expand the NCAA tournament. Leave it alone, but it looks like they're going to probably expand it anyways.
Yeah, I agree with the sweet spot because it is right now a great time for sports and there's plenty of distractions going on. I will say though, the downsides, there's a very long gap obviously after the draft where it's just dead time in the NFL cycle. There's not a lot of news that will come out. There's also a lot of dead time right after the Super Bowl for about 3.5 weeks where you're like, what's going on? The NFL free agency hasn't started yet. Baseball hasn't started back up. You're still kind of in the middle-ish of basketball and NHL.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's just kind of a dull moment. Now we've entered, early to mid-March. You enter the excitement again, and that goes for about a month through to the NFL draft. And then really it's just going to be baseball for the summer.
Yeah.
So, good on baseball, by the way. They own the summer, which is pretty great.
And I have to admit, back when I was doing my solo sports show when I was in radio, I was one of those people who hated on the pitch clock. I didn't want the pitch clock. I didn't want all that stuff.
It's great.
Now I look back and I'm like, I was wrong. Like I'll take the L on that. That it has really made the games move. And I think part of it was, I remember saying it, like I just was still I lived in Chicago for 6 years and I lived a 10-minute walk away from Wrigley Field. And I used to go to games like when they would start, you could get tickets on StubHub for like $5. Like as soon as the first pitch would go off, I'd go into Wrigley, once every couple of weeks when I had nothing going on a Wednesday afternoon or whatever. And you could sit there for 3.5 hours and really enjoy your time. And I was stuck in that mindset of like, I want to go to a game and really enjoy the experience of going to the game. But now, because all I do is watch baseball on TV for the most part, it really is. It's fantastic.
It's superior. Yeah, and the pitchers have gotten used to it. There's really not much of an issue there, so, they're able to get the pitches off in time, and they're you never hardly ever see any,
Yeah.
faults, occur from that,
Are you
so
a Masters guy?
Oh, yeah, I love the
Yeah, I
Masters,
love. Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
I
Yeah, yeah,
like.
definitely,
I
definitely.
get. I get
I'm like you, we've talked about this, I watch major golf,
the four majors.
I
I
will
love them.
watch the majors, obviously, the Masters is a special experience. I love Jim Nance. He's my favorite broadcaster, and then on top of it, just the allure of the event itself. Now that I'm close by, I'm definitely considering putting myself in the
The lottery.
lottery because I don't have to worry about plane tickets. Like plane tickets around
Yeah,
Masters times to get into Augusta
it's
or
insane.
even to Atlanta, very expensive. I can drive, so that would help cut down on some of those costs. So maybe one of these years I'll be able to do it. But
Yeah.
yeah, today we are talking a little bit of NFL news, some quarterback talk in the NFL, but we're going to focus, of course,
Ooh.
on the prospects coming up in the NFL draft, and then we're going to do our NFL draft full first round mock next week, and then we'll be having our draft reaction show later this month for the draft. So really excited for that, but we'll dive into the quarterback prospects right now. I can't help but grasp at the low-hanging fruit of Kirk Cousins being this contract magician, despite this deal completely being a fugazi, essentially.
It's
Like, all of this money means nothing. He did sign a 5-year, $172 million deal on paper with the Las Vegas Raiders. That is almost certainly going to be a 1-year, $20 million deal, and the rest of that money is not going to exist after this year. But nonetheless, another contract on paper that makes Kirk Cousins look like the best financial wizard that's ever existed in the NFL. And he is, even before, like, the amount of money he's made up to this point has solidified his place there. This one just kind of puts the icing on the cake and makes it look hilarious when you think about it. And from a move perspective, this makes all the sense in the world, knowing that Fernando Mendoza is going to be a Vegas Raider sooner rather than later.
he's read the art of the deal. That's for sure. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to negotiate. My jaw dropped when I saw it, and then it was like the half second later. I'm like, okay, it's not real. So like, what? My immediate thought kept going like, why would they even sign a 5-year deal? Like, what was the
Yeah, that is weird.
like? What is the purpose? And I think from what I've seen, and nothing confirmed, was just like they have his kind of rights, you know what I mean, locked up. Like, say Fernando gets in there as a rookie and Kirk is going to start anyways, and maybe he really struggles, right? Like maybe he just not ready to go even to start year 2. They have Kirk Cousins, right? It's like they've locked up the rights to Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, and if they want him to be a backup for a couple years, if they feel that he can
they
actually
can renegotiate.
until he's 40,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then also, like, if Kirk wants to be that guy to mentor Fernando, they can spend some money on having Kirk without knowing they're not spending a ton of money having Mr. Mendoza. So I love the move. I love the move for Kirk. I love the move for what the Raiders are trying to do there. I mean, obviously, it's crazy because a year ago we're talking about, hey, the Raiders are trying to bring stability. Pete Carroll and Geno Smith. The Raiders are trying to bring stability. They're bringing in Kirk Cousins, the new head coach. So it's listen, it's not perfect, but Kubiak gets a guy that obviously he knows can run a system well, and him and his system, Kirk Cousins, a guy like that, is a system quarterback. So that's great for him. And then is an organization, you got to feel great about him being there in the room with a young quarterback and knowing that Kirk is at the stage now where he's okay with it. I don't think he embraced it maybe with Michael Penix Jr. He was a little blindsided by them drafting Michael Penix Jr. I think he'll really embrace this. And also, the relationship between those two guys is going to be perfect. They are like spot on personality, like good boy Christian guys. Like it's going to be great. It's going to be fun. And I don't know what it means for the Raiders ceiling. I haven't really looked at their schedule or even gotten to those prediction marks, but I think it's a good move. It's a strong move.
Yeah, really solid. The Raiders offseason continues to be a big win, and we'll see what they end up doing in the draft outside of Mendoza, but that seems to be a lock for sure. Also, just something worth pointing out, and I don't know the exact specifics of it. Again, the NFL salary cap and the financials. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of intricacies that we don't know. It's kind of like investing sometimes.
Yeah.
That being said, I also think the 5 years gives them the opportunity that even if they were to cut bait with Kirk, they still are able to spread that money out over the duration of that initial contract,
There you go.
so that their cap hit for Kirk will be extremely low. Whether it's the 20 million fully guaranteed that he's owed this year, they don't owe that on paper this year, although it will be in his pocket. So it's one of those weird things.
True.
But they have the option to sign him next year, and then it would be 80 million total money that they would owe him. So if they do want him for year 2, they're going to want those extra years to spread out that other $60 million that they were going to have to pay him. Right. So
that makes sense. That makes sense. You were looking at the right people. That makes sense.
Going off of that, Dexter Lawrence came out very surprisingly, at least to us, maybe those in the New York media and diehard New York Giants fans had seen the writing on the wall, but he has requested a trade. He does not want to be a member of the New York Giants anymore. A lot of speculation about where he will go, who he's a good fit for. At the end of the day, this does really seem, though, like if a deal were to get struck, this is going to be a very costly deal for some team. Probably similar to the Max Crosby deal. From what I'm hearing and seeing, is that it would take a couple first rounders to get a deal like that done for a guy who's not only a ferocious pass rusher, but an incredible run stuffer as well, and all around great defensive lineman. So this would be a really big get for some team, but it would cost a lot to acquire it.
Yeah, my initial thought was like, like the seagull meme from Finding Nemo, like bears, 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 bears. But I trust my guys Carmen and Yurko at ESPN 1000, and I saw their clip going viral on Twitter. And listen, Yurko played defensive tackle. Like I trust him. He's like, for a guy who's about to be on the wrong side of 30, he's already played 9 seasons. Would you hope maybe he plays at this? He's an elite player. Look, full stop, facts. But do you think he wants a new long-term deal? Like, what is it he wants? Are you trading for him and I get to just keep him at like 2 years at a fairly reasonable price, right? Or is it like, no, the reason he wants to be traded is because he wants a long-term deal and he wants a new, 3-year extension or whatever, and big money. If I have to give up a first and other picks and sign him to a deal, I would feel very out on that. And my reasoning is the same reason I said no to Max Crosby with the Bears, is that, listen, have I been underwhelmed by the Bears free agency and trade season so far? Yes, for the most part. I think it's been very just kind of replace, not improve. But I also know the Bears, I think, are trying to be really smart financially, knowing that they could have a $70 million quarterback. They could be having to reset the quarterback market in literally 1 year from now. And they have a ton of good draft picks. I know the Bears are picking at the end of the first round for the first time in what seems like forever, but they have multiple seconds, multiple thirds, fourths. Like they have a bevy of, if you can hit on 3 or 4 of those guys, that's exactly what this team needs to be in. That is the mode the Bears need to be in. Selectively spending on veterans, saving money for your quarterback, and you have to crush the draft. So we'll see. Maybe it gets ugly and the price drops down, and Dexter doesn't want a new contract. He just doesn't want to be a part of Harbaugh, and he just wants to be out of New York. He wants to change the scenery. Well, then I'll kick the tires on. If you can get him for not a first round pick, like multiple other picks like that, right? And I don't have to send him a giant deal, then I'm all ears. Let's listen to it. But
Sure.
I have a feeling most fan bases would agree with my statement, depending on their situation. Now, I don't know. I don't know what maybe a Detroit would look at that and say, yeah, that's worth it. We feel like we're a Dexter Lawrence away on defense from helping our corners and helping Hutchinson in this we're in a win now mode, right? Maybe a New England Patriots say, hey, we're a Dexter Lawrence away from going back to the AFC title game next year, right? And while we're not paying our quarterback anything. Maybe there's other teams that feel differently. I can speak for my feeling, my team. He's a great player. Whatever teams that get him is going to be a better football team next year when he's playing. But it could be a big pill to swallow, and I don't know if I want to swallow.
Yeah, I think that this would only make sense for a team that is in win now mode, that is one piece away, but that also has the money to be able to support that. And it's tough to find all of those factors line up perfectly. I mean, if you're a Buffalo Bills, like obviously this is a guy that can help you get over the hump. If you're even the Cincinnati Bengals, who haven't felt close in quite some time, maybe this is a guy that at least helps limit the loss of Trey Hendrickson and also gives you a fighting chance to be relevant. The Chiefs,
the Rams, the Chiefs. I was going to say they're winning.
Yeah, absolutely. These are teams that can, that can justify perhaps punting once again on some draft capital to get a guy that they feel can get them a trophy next year.
Yeah, I don't know what a team that just came to mind too, like Tampa. I don't know what their cap situation is, but it feels like, hey, if I'm Tampa and we've lost some key pieces on defense and we don't have a great pick, like, when you're picking late, it's like, all right, let's, maybe we would kick the tires on something like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. He's a great player. We'll see what happens. I'm shocked by it mainly because you'd think like, dude, you should be excited about playing for New York. You got a coach now that you actually kind of can trust in, right? Like what maybe he met with Harbaugh and it was just felt like this is not what I want to sign up for. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe
well, I mean, he's
towards
the end of his career, and I mean, they've got a very, very young quarterback. Is Jackson Dart even the quarterback of the future? They could be in a situation where they're rebuilding in a year or two from now, and he doesn't really want to. He wants to go to a contender,
and he wants. And he probably knows that if he waits in another year, he has a better chance to dip into the one more big contract if he's traded now, right? Than versus in a year or 2 years from now.
All right, let's get into the quarterback draft class. It's not a great one. It's certainly one of the more underwhelming QB classes of recent memory, but there's also been some poor quarterback classes in this decade so far. There haven't been too many that have completely wowed you. This year it has a clear headliner in Fernando Mendoza, and then there's a lot of guys that there are questions about whether they're even first round talents. I don't know about you. I mean, this is kind of outside of 2021 or 22, whichever year was the Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett year. There's always multiple quarterbacks that are going to go in the first round. And I have a hard time thinking that there's not going to be a second or third even quarterback that goes in the first round this year, even if that talent doesn't rise to that occasion. So I know that you've kind of ranked out some quarterbacks and listed where you view them. So yeah, I mean, if we want to dive into that, we certainly can, but curious your thoughts on the overall class before we get into it.
It feels to me a little bit like last year's because I think it was only Cam Ward who went in the first round, right? Why am I missing someone who else is a first round? Like there's,
yeah, I think
because everyone was thinking Shedeur, and then it wasn't Shedeur.
Well, no, Tyler Shuck, and Jackson Dart went in the first round.
Jackson Dart, okay, Jackson Dart,
because they
I missed Jackson Dart. Yeah. So, but Shuck's a good name to bring up. I feel like there is a couple guys who, if they're in the right spot, and if you draft them in the second or third, fourth round, could be a Tyler Shuck, right? Like
Mhm.
I think there's a couple names here that I'm like, listen, if they end up with an offensive coach, there's no reason why if they sit the first half of the season, they could play some football at the next level. But what I don't see in this class is I don't see the Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jane Daniels, where it's like multiple dudes, where it's like the talent is off the charts, right? Where it's like it's just draft them for the talent. I see a lot of guys. It's like, hey, in the right system, like every note I kept making with like every guy was like, arm is okay, arm is good, but none of like what we saw the Iceman do this year or what Drake May did, you know what I mean? Or Jane Daniels, you forget how great and electric his arm is. And I do think in the NFL, it's becoming a little bit like baseball in the sense where baseball, it's about, striking out or hitting home runs. In the NFL, it's about like, you need to hit deep balls when they're there because the offensive scheme is dink, dunk, try to get someone to bite and then hit people with deep
Yeah,
balls. Like,
it's
that's
just
so much.
the deep ball is so hard to pull off nowadays. So yeah, when the
Yeah,
opportunity's there, you have to hit it.
it's like scheme deep ball. So you have to have a guy with the arm to do it. And I don't know about a lot of these guys with that. So that being said, so I have a ranking of all the guys. I used a couple different sources to get some information I use that I trust, and then I use obviously some highlight tapes. Watched a lot of highlights over the last couple of days, um, um, just to give me. I want to be like, oh, this guy threw for this against this team. I watch it more like when you just watch a guy, what does he remind you of, right? Like, what does it
Yeah.
feel like? So I'll have a comparison for
Okay.
each guy as well, and I'll let you kind of go with that. So my first category is guys I would draft in the first round, and I will tell you the only person I have in this category is Fernando Mendoza. 6'5", 236, and the reports are at the pro day he was heavier, like he's put on weight. I love that. Redshirt junior, things I love about him, he's only 22, but he has 3 years of starting experience. So a lot of time, like a Bo Nix, so much starts, but it's also like, okay, but he was like 25 when he got drafted. So it's like
Right.
a little bit of like, I feel like we've seen the peak. I feel like Mendoza still, because he's only 22, there's still room to grow, right? With
Sure.
the right head coach. And again, so other things I like, 3 seasons starting with Cal and then with Indiana. So this year, 3,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, won the Heisman. The bad that I would say is a concern when he's required to move, his completion percentage plummeted to like 53%. And the scary thing is like, okay, people are gonna be like, well, Mark, Caleb Williams. It's like, okay. But yes, and that's fine. But what do I see when Mendoza's on the move? I see a guy who's not Caleb Williams, right? Caleb Williams on the move, it's like Johnny Manziel, where you're like, this is electric. What the hell's going to happen? Oh, it's incomplete. Fernando on the move, it's like, oh, he's on the move, and that didn't look great.
Yeah.
So that is an obvious concern. When facing true pressure, just any sort of true pressure, whether forcing him to move or not, the completion percentage dropped to 50%. So Indiana had a veteran, good offensive line. It played against a lot of good teams in the Big Ten through the playoff run. So that's one of those things where it's like, if I'm the Raiders, I'm pointing at those couple things to be like, if we don't need to start him day one, let's not start him day one. But I do think he is a worthy number 1 overall pick. I think there are better players in this draft, but he's by far the best quarterback, and you need a quarterback. So that's the way it works. I will say a couple other things. He only took 3% of his snaps under center last year. Kubiak is going to want to get you under center. I mean, if you watch those Seattle teams and Sam Darnold, a lot of it was out of play action with those running backs, right?
That's a good point.
And you have Ashton Genty. So that, again, it's going to put him on the move, right? Moving your feet, even just moving to fake the handoff to then plant and turn. Those are things that are concerns. Love that he's getting Kirk Cousins. Comparison, couple guys came to mind. Two from just the look of the playing style. Carson Palmer, Matt Ryan. I feel like
Mm.
he's somewhere in that world, right? Carson Palmer won a Heisman. Neither of those guys were very mobile. Carson Palmer, a little bit bigger arm. I think he compares maybe a little bit more to a Matt Ryan, just size, game. But then I do think his attitude being like Andrew Luck is something that makes him a little special. I think guys are going to like playing for Fernando Mendoza. So I have him for his best spot. Raiders number one. Go number one. Be a number one quarterback and earn that.
Yeah, he certainly has the leadership qualities, and on top of it, he performed really well in clutch situations, which there's not a clear, perfectly defined metric for something like that, but it matters at the quarterback position. You have to play well. We'll talk about another quarterback that's going to show up on this list who hasn't come through in the clutch for the majority of his career. Fernando Mendoza on third down is spectacular. And in just these heat of the moment situations we saw in the college football playoffs and ultimately in the championship, he was at his best in when the lights were brightest, and that's a huge factor in all of this. His mechanics are very sound, and he likely won't need any quarterback's going to need footwork and mechanic help. But of all the quarterbacks on this list, he's the most polished of that group as well, to where he could start day one if he needed to. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to like there, and he is worthy of the number one pick. Who you've got at number two? Ty Simpson seems to be the standard pick there. The most agreed upon is. Do you fall in line with that as well?
Ty is the guy you're seeing in the mock draft sneak into the first round and be like the other quarterback in the first round. So my second category, I call it second or third rounders. I'd feel really comfortable using a second or third round pick on one of these guys, like a Tyler Shuck, where it's like, I feel as though this guy midway through the season, if my quarterback if my starter is struggling, I'm going to put him in and we're going to see what we got with this kid. Or if he starts the season day one, then it's like, hey, he earned the job in camp and beat out someone, and we only spent a second or third rounder on it. Like, I feel good about that. I feel like I'm getting a win out of these guys. I don't think either of these guys I would go first round grade on. And my number two ranked quarterback in this class, I'm going with Nussmeier, Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU.
Yeah.
The reason I like Nussmeier is I like the highlights really sold me on Nussmeier. All right? So redshirt senior, tons of experience. Listen, 2 years ago, he threw for 4,000 yards to 29 touchdowns.
I was going to say he's 1 year removed from a really, really good season. You know,
he was the guy who was the number one pick. Like, it was gonna be like him. The problem is obviously the step back, less than 2,000 yards passing, 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in 9 games. But LSU imploded. So how much do I put on him? How much do I put on
injured half the entire year?
Yeah,
you know, it came
Kelly and all that.
So
multiple injuries, the patellar tendon in the knee. You're right. So here's some positives for me with Nussmeier. Primarily operates from the pocket. He's a pocket guy who fearless like anticipation. He's a dude who trusts that the receiver is going to be there and throws the ball. That's what you have to do in the NFL. What paralyzes guys when they go from college to the NFL is they go from wide open windows to like, oh, that's too tight of a window, I can't do it. Well, if you're a guy who relies on that's the play, the guy's going to be there, I'm going to throw the ball and I'm accurate, that will hopefully help and translate well. He has a flexible arm. It's not the best arm, but it's a modern arm in the sense where you see the guys doing the angles, right? And so that is something that I like. If you're an accurate pocket guy, he's not a mobile guy. If you're an accurate pocket guy, I like that your arm can be flexible, i.e. Stafford. Now, Stafford's a generational arm, but it helps, right? It can help you make those throws. He's only coming out about like 210 pounds. I know some people have a list at like 205. I've seen others a little over 210. He's not the biggest guy, 6'2", 205, but I think that can play. That's not too far off from like a Joe Burrow size.
Right.
Other things I like, he gets the ball out of his hand really quickly. He's not a guy who you have any concerns about, it's like Justin Fields, who's going to hold and pat and pat and pat and pat. Negatives, a lot of dink and dunk this season. But again, I just don't, it's really hard. If you look at the footage, and I watch a lot of highlights from 2024 versus 2025, a lot of it looks like he's the same guy. It's just the offense is way more dynamic. And so how do I judge that? LSU is a mess, bad run game, one of the worst run games in the country this year. Little reckless and not a rocket arm. The anticipation can be reckless at times, right? So the good can be a bad. My NFL comparison, this one is going to be interesting. I think you'll like this. Maybe our younger listeners won't get this one as much. Matt Hasselbeck reminds me of Matt Hasselbeck.
Yeah.
Similar size, truly a pocket quarterback, was never going to be Stafford, right? Was never going to be Brady, but was better than like a Kirk Cousins, or you know what I mean, like his era, like very competent, led his team to a Super Bowl, confident guy, and could make the throws all the time. Now, best landing spot, Arizona, Minnesota, or Los Angeles. Arizona, Minnesota, because I think he's the type of guy, if he ends up on the 3rd round pick from Minnesota, I think you'd say like a guy like Kevin O'Connell would be like, I feel like I maybe trust this guy more than I would do a JJ. You know what I mean? Arizona, same type of thing. Like, okay, yeah, you got a quarterback in place for now, kind of. It's like, all right, let's see how that feels, right? Let's see how that works with an offensive guy. So I have Nussmeier ahead of Simpson, but it's close.
We're in agreement there, actually. I didn't have Simpson number 2 as well. My biggest concern with Simpson over anything is what's largely being talked about when you discuss this class. He's got 15 career starts, and the sample size of successful NFL quarterbacks with only 1 year of starting is really, really small. We're talking about like Tom Brady and Sam Darnold, who just, recently had success in his NFL career. If you want to throw Mark Sanchez in there, fine, but we can debate if that was a success.
Yeah.
So really there's not much to go off of there. And it doesn't mean it's a non-starter. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have talent, but it probably means that he's a couple years away from even considering having him being a starting quarterback. And there's just we haven't seen him in as many situations as you have with a lot of these other quarterbacks that have that experience under their belt.
23 years old, Ty Simpson. He is my 3rd. He's listed at 6'1", 211. I think that's probably more
generous.
Like 5'11" and 3/4.
Yeah, it's like what they've done
and
with this ABS system in MLB, where they had to adjust the height for
the baseball players.
A lot of MLB players, and it turns out some guys lost 3 inches when they actually had to do the accurate measurements. So yeah, some guys went from 6'1" to 5'10". That's brutal.
So listen, here's some positives on Ty Simpson. Here's some things I can sell myself on Ty Simpson. During an 8-game stretch this year that included 4 top 16 ranked opponents: Georgia, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Tennessee. So he played Big Boy Conference, Big Boy football. He threw for almost 2,000 yards, 19 touchdowns, 1 interception, completed 72% of his passes. So he had stretches where he was dominant in SEC play with a Kalen DeBoer offense. It's more traditional kind of NFL read option passing game offense. I'll say this. When you talk about moving on the run, he does that better than the 2 guys I've listed before him, right? So there is a mobility positivity to that. He's got a little bit of that Gumby action to him. A little shake and bake, not a runner per se, but he can really throw on the move and be on the move. That's all good. The negative, though, obviously, is the 1 year as a starter. I mean, like that is something that we have seen now, as you just mentioned, over and over and over again. If you're a 1 year starter, boy, oh boy, oh boy, and you're expected to play right away, that is a lot to ask. That is a lot to ask a guy. And it just hasn't turned out well. I will say The other big negative for me is 37.3% completion percentage on passes of 20 or more air yards. So think about Alabama football, even like when Bryce Young, Mac Jones, AJ McCarron, like those, you think about all those wide receivers and just hitting deep balls. That was not Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson is not in that Jalen Hurts throwing deep balls at Alabama class. I have the comparison is Bryce Young, JJ McCarthy, where it's like he's a little bit bigger than Bryce Young. Bryce Young is tiny. He's not tiny. He reminds me of JJ in the sense where there's some mobility and there's some good movement, but there's also a bunch of passes where you're like, what the hell happened there? Like, and that is kind of JJ, right? JJ can wow you. Ty Simpson can wow you, but then there's also a lot of like, what the hell was that? I think, again, best spots, offensive coaches. It's the same as Nussmeier. I'd go Rams, Minnesota, Arizona, anywhere where it's like you're not going to have to start right away, and you get an offensive mind who is going to believe in you and help you out. And you could be successful, like Shuck was in New Orleans. Didn't have to start right away, but got an offensive coach in Kellen Moore that believed in him and worked with him. Worst case scenario for Nussmeier and Simpson is like Jets. You know what I mean? Like it's another tragedy. It's an American tragedy.
I actually think that he kind of reminds me of Mark Sanchez a little bit, honestly, and that's like a similar frame and everything like that too.
He's a little more. I just feel he's a little more loosey goosey. Sanchez. Maybe I have to look back at Sanchez. It felt a little more stiff to me, but
yeah. I mean, and I think Simpson's got a little bit of underrated athleticism in his ability to maneuver around. He's definitely not as stiff as some of the other guys on this list, but so far we're pretty much in lockstep. I just have a lot of questions with Ty Simpson. He's number 3 because I think there's a lot of upside there. But there are some other guys a little bit further down this list that I probably preferentially would take.
Yeah, they're measurables and they're upside.
Yeah. So curious what you have for number 4, because this is where I think I have my most potentially controversial opinion.
So at 4, so this is my third tier of guys, and these are I would say I'm not touching them till the 4th round or later, right?
Gotcha.
So these are guys I will criticize your football team if you're drafting any of these guys in the 1st or 2nd round. 3rd round, okay, maybe you're sold on them, whatever. But of the next couple names I read, if you're taking them 1st or 2nd round, I'm a little worried about your evaluation, and I just don't see it. I just don't see it. So I have a Carson Beck at number 4, and I'll tell you why. The amount of starts and the amount of big games and the size. He's 23, so he's still young. Think about that. He's a 6-year senior who started 2 years at Georgia, 1 year at Miami, and competed in multiple ginormous playoff football games, including a national title, multiple national title games. So this guy has seen it all. And he's still young. He's not Bo Nix, where he's already 26 years old and has seen it all, right? 6'5", 233. Yep. He has lived also a little bit of the celebrity lifestyle, celebrity girlfriend, Miami, made money in NIL. I think he's handled it. Like, it's not like he's Johnny Manziel. I think there's no question about, like, all of a sudden I give Carson Beck a ton of money and what is he going to become? Insane experience. That's my number 1 positive. 11,725 yards in 3 seasons as a full-time starter. In just the last 2 years alone, almost 60 touchdowns to only 24 interceptions with 7,200 passing yards. His game, I read this quote and I wrote it down. His game is centered around accuracy and decisiveness. He wastes little time getting the ball out, remains synchronized with his progressions. His 74.8% adjusted completion percentage last season was 8th highest mark among all passers. Negatives, it's like a broken clock with this draft class. Not mobile. He did take sacks, so he does hold on to the ball at times. Not great on the run. So it's a similar like any of these other guys, right?
Yeah, out of structure, he's a big question mark.
Big question mark. My comparison is Mac Jones, Davis Mills. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
I could see Carson Beck being like Davis Mills, where it's like, hell, that guy for 3 or 4 games can play some good football, and or Mac Jones, and we're like, well, maybe he could be the starter. I think his best spot is actually
Or
staying in
Stetson
Miami.
Bennett even.
Yeah, right. Best spot
Yeah.
staying in Miami. He knows the city. He's adjusted to the city. They like him down there. Just led that team to a national title. And like you back up Malik Willis, right? There's not that immediate pressure to start. But if things go sideways with Willis, you could certainly like throw the kid in. You know what I mean? It's the end of the season or whatever, right? And see what he has. Or I would say Atlanta or Dallas. And I say Atlanta or Dallas because again,
Okay.
Atlanta being a market where he's really well known, a Georgia guy, Georgia market, wouldn't need the pressure being the day one starter, right? You're kind of competing for the backup job and you're getting an offensive head coach. Like there's a lot to like there. And then Dallas, again, you're not going to have to start because Dak will start. But I certainly think, as we know Dak's history, this is the season now he gets injured, right? It's like every other season, it's like there's going to be missed games. And I think he'd be a really capable backup quarterback with those weapons in that type of system, doing what Dak does, which is a total pocket passer, right? Everything on accuracy with an offensive head coach. So listen, I could have said Arizona or the other teams again, but I was trying to go a little outside the box. He's got the Miami and the Georgia ties, so I think those could make sense.
I've got a couple interesting teams that you didn't mention in there that I think would be great fits for him, particularly Green Bay. I think,
I like that.
and these are all going to be backup jobs, but
Yeah.
Green Bay and San Francisco. I think given that he is a structured system guy, he needs an offensive head coach that operates on timing and repetition.
Mhm.
And Matt LaFleur and Kyle Shanahan would be perfect to get, I think, the most that you can possibly get out of Carson Beck.
Yeah.
And especially in San Fran, there's no pressure there because he'd be third on the depth chart essentially, but they're not probably going to keep Mac Jones around for very much longer. And he could be a guy that they can, scoot in to be the successor potentially to Brock Purdy once this, contract gets a little bit more
Purdy's the guy who's
digestible.
going to miss some time. It's in his. So it's funny you said 49ers. So like
Yeah.
in my head when I was doing this, I was like, you could say the 49ers for every quarterback because it's Kyle Shanahan. I didn't say the Niners for a lot of the top guys because I'm like, okay, he'd be the third immediately, and you don't want to necessarily be the third. But you're right. It makes
And
a lot
also,
of sense.
are the 49ers going to spend a third round pick on a quarterback?
Probably
I don't
not.
know. I definitely think you should draft a quarterback every year in the NFL.
Would you have Carson Beck 4?
I did not have Carson Beck 4. No.
So who do you have 4?
At 4, I have Cole Payton, North Dakota State.
Whoa. Okay. You
I
like
think-
you like the North Dakota State kid.
I do. I like him a lot.
So sell me on him because I don't have him in this group. I have him in the next group, which is a guy that I like the tape. I watched the highlights. I think he's going to be a really capable athlete, but it's one of those like he's in my names of like don't shock you if he shows up because I'm sure real scouts have really scouted him. So sell me on him.
Yeah, I just think I love the tape when I watch him. His capability is off the charts. He comes through in big moments. Obviously, his competition and strength of schedule is never going to be something that you can compare to the other guys on this list. That's just the nature of it, D1 AA. But his intangibles are incredible. He is a prototypical dual threat type of guy. He's got the size. He stands in there in the pocket. There's a lot of leadership qualities there. He takes hits. He delivers the ball. He's got a rocket arm. He can really make all of the throws. His biggest faults are mechanical. And I just think we're at the area now at the stage of NFL quarterback development where it's clear that like mechanics are the one thing that if there's going to be one negative on someone, you know what? I'm fine with it being mechanics because you can't teach a big arm, you can't teach
It's
athleticism,
true.
but we can teach mechanics, we can clean that up. And all of that talk, I'm not saying he's going to be this, but all of that talk reminds me a lot of Josh Allen. Like he went to Wyoming. He wasn't a high, recruit coming out of high school, no star athlete, didn't play top tier talent, had all of the tools, but everyone talked about his accuracy was not great and his mechanics were off. I just feel like Cole Payton has the most upside, honestly, of any of the
Yeah.
quarterbacks on this list outside of Mendoza. And to me, when we're talking about mid-round quarterbacks at this point, I'm putting him then. I'm taking that risk above a Carson Beck, above a Drew Aller, because I feel that there's way more meat on the bone there, and way more to work with from a malleability standpoint. So
That's really
that's
fair.
why I just get excited about him.
That's really fair because so things I agree with you like that. I don't know as much about him as I will probably in the coming weeks as the more I watch or especially to see where he gets mocked at. My thought with not putting him in the fourth round or like I'm going to draft him guy is because um, I don't I don't think he's as capable right now of like shit. If I had to start a game tomorrow, I would take Carson Beck over him, right? To like start a game and be a
Mhm.
competent quarterback. But what you're right is, if you're in the fifth, sixth, seventh round, his upside is insane. Like when you watch the tape, the upside shows off the charts. It scares me because it just feels like Trey Lance 2.0, right? Where it's like
Yes, yeah,
mechanics are not great, but his upside is insane. But he's
totally.
not going to be like Trey Lance, where Trey Lance was drafted
But
top five.
but
He's not going to be
also
drafted top five
yeah, exactly. Like if you could have taken Trey Lance, not knowing
in the
obviously what
sixth
panned
round.
out in the fourth quarter or fourth round,
Yeah, yeah,
you're taking that because
yep.
the trade-off is just,
And Trey
unmatched.
Lance's career might have turned out differently if that pressure was never on him,
Yeah.
right?
And if he ended up going to a team that wasn't picking one overall,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I have number 5. I have Luke Altmaier. I'll just quickly. I like that he's a 3-year starter, tons of experience, 6'2", 210, big enough. His negative is the classic negative. The arm is a good arm, not a great arm, and he doesn't always take the layup. He's got a little gunslinger mentality without the rocket, right? It's a
Yeah.
little bit of that. Hey, Luke, it's right there for you. Take the layup. He's to me, he's a little bit of a bigger Brock Purdy. If he gets, Brock Purdy's big negative coming to college was he took too many risks. It's like, dude, take the layup. You're a really efficient quarterback. I think Luke, if he ends up in a place like an Indianapolis with a Shane Steichen or a Kansas City, a 49ers, you know what I mean? One of those type of places with a real offensive coach, I think he could end up having a really nice long NFL career where he's a true backup, maybe becomes a bridge quarterback for years to come. I like Luke a lot. He actually is more mobile. Like he can
Yes,
really move too.
for sure.
Um, 13 rushing touchdowns, 700 yards rushing in his 3 years as a starter. So I think there's a lot to like with Luke Altmaier. Again, I think his comparison is like ceiling Bo Nix, right? Like, okay, Bo doesn't have the arm, but Bo is mobile. If Luke Altmaier ends up in the right spot, he could be a really quality player, I think, in this game. I'll quickly then go. I have Drew Aller at 6. Again, what I like about Drew Aller at 6'5", 228, at only 22 years old, ton of experience, still a lot of youth, right? It's kind of the opposite of these classes have been recently, where it's a ton of experience and they're old. He is the prototype. Again, like Nussmeier, he was the guy who was going to go 1 overall. How do I judge what the implosion of Penn State football was this year? Do I blame
Right.
it on him? Maybe. But again, I'm taking this guy on body size and
He's huge.
experience in the 4th round. I compare him to like a Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, where you're just like, this is a big freaking dude who can throw the ball, but it doesn't always look perfect, right? It's not Peyton Manning. It's not Tom Brady. There's just something off, kind of like Daniel Jones and Darnold. I don't think he'll end up having as good of a career as those guys, but I think that's kind of what you look at. I mean, his completion percentage went up, went up, went up, and then it was a plummet this year. It's hard. I mean, in 2024, if you look at the footage again, like Nussmeier, like this dude's the number one quarterback. He's Drake May. Like he's what you want. So I think there's a lot to like there. And again, if I'm the Colts, if I'm the Vikings, if I'm an offensive guy who's got a starter, I want
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, right? I want this kid in my building as like, oh no, we took him in the 4th round. Don't worry about it. He's not going to start. Took him in the 4th round. And it's like, if you're a football nerd coach, or get your hands on him. And then the final guy I'll list in this of mine that I want to talk about is a guy who I think actually has more upside than your North Dakota State, Cole Payton.
All right.
This dude is just one of those, when you watch the tape, you're like, he's a freak. And I just don't know if he ever got the right coaching to help him totally reach all his potential. And that's Talon Green. Talon Green. Okay. He's the 6'6", 227, fifth-year senior. Listen, he reminds you of, Jaden Daniels. Like, he looks like Jaden Daniels. He's tall, he's mobile, he's skinny.
I think it's like Terrell Pryor.
Yes, like he's a giant dude, right? So I would say his comparison ceiling is like Jaden Daniels level. If you want a system where it's like, I want my quarterback to do what Jaden Daniels does really well, go find a Talon Green. He can do what he could do those things if coached well. The floor, though, is Trey Lance, where it's like he also just may not be able to play quarterback at the highest level. But again, I'm taking a flyer on this dude who, and I quote, had the best QB testing performance ever at the combine. He ran a 4.36 40.
Yeah, it's incredible.
He jumped 43.5 inches on the vertical and an 11'2" broad jump. I mean, the dude is, it's like Josh Allen level freakish insane.
Someone's taking this guy earlier.
And what I like about him, again, 4 years of starting, 3 years at Boise State, and then his final year there at Arkansas. So he did have some big level competition. Kind of reminds you of Cam Ward in that sense, where it's like played smaller and then got one chance playing big. It was fine. It was okay. His big negative is he holds the ball really long. It's a lot like Justin.
What's that sound like?
He holds Justin Fields. Fields. 3.13 second average time to throw. That was 134 out of 130.
Shave a second off of that.
So again, sailing Jaden Daniels, probably Justin Fields, like a ginormous freak, amazing athlete, but dude, just throw the ball, like throw the football. Took a lot of sacks, struggled facing pressure. Yeah. So those were, I don't have to keep shitting on him. I'm going to give him positives. I just like that. We've seen more of that type of quarterback in the last couple of years show up and get chances. So I think if you're a guy who's willing to say, I want to coach that, I think he's a guy that's really interesting because of his athletic ability.
Totally. Yeah, no, I agree.
And then I give a shout out to Cole Payton, Cade Klubnik, another guy who was supposed to be a first rounder.
Yeah, I mean, a few years ago, he was supposed to be the guy,
But again, so my struggle with him is I don't love the size, and I've just never, the highlights, I don't even in the highlights see what I see in Nussmeier or Simpson, right? I just don't see the it. And then with Diego Pavia, he's listed at 5'10". Yeah, right. I mean, I really think he's like 5. I think he's a 5'9" quarterback, and he's got off the field things that I'm just like, I'm not dealing with that. I'm not dealing with that. I wouldn't shock me if he gets drafted, but I'm not dealing with
that. 100%. Yeah, no. So that's despite it not being a very riveting class, there's still ways to get excited about the prospects of some of these players, and we know that several of them, if not all, that we mentioned are going to get drafted at some point, and so a lot of it depends on environment and where you go. So
if you had to bet really quickly, take Mendoza out of it.
Yeah.
Who is a quarterback in 2 years from now we'll still be talking about? It's like, oh, that's interesting. Is there a guy that you have a little faith in? Be like, that's interesting. This guy's interesting. We'll see what he's got. Or Bubba, you know what I mean? Trade for him. He can play.
Yeah, I mean, I think a guy like Carson Beck has the profile of being a quarterback who sticks around in the league for a long time because he is very accurate and he plays the scheme. So I think he's a guy, even though he's lower on my overall rankings, I think he has one of the higher floors
Yeah.
because um he can be a Mason Rudolph in the NFL. And I think that there's
Good comparison. That's a really good comparison.
yeah, I mean that's a coveted thing to be. It's you're going to make millions and millions of dollars. You're going to stick around for a long time and be fairly reliable. So he might be a guy that we talk about just in the sense that he'll still be in the league in a few years. But if there's a guy who I'm like of that class that I feel has the odds to be a starter and actually last a little while, it'd probably be Nussmeier.
I would say true too. If I can't choose Mendoza, I wouldn't put my mortgage on it, but I would put some money on Nussmeier being a guy that if he's in the right spot, can have success. Again, the crazy thing is in 2.5 weeks from now, we'll have answers to all these questions. And a lot of it's going to be like, well, shit, he ended up there. So it's good luck.
Yeah, right. So yeah, scrap that.
Good luck.
Exactly. That's what makes it so fun. I'm excited to roll it back again this year. We are gonna try and do another live stream. So if you're listening, if you're watching right now, and you want to join us and react in real time during the draft on April 25th, please come join us. We'll have the link available for folks, and you can just reach out to us on social media, and we can send that your way and have you join the show. Be really exciting stuff. So we're looking forward to that. We've got our mock draft coming up next week, and yeah, before you know it, we'll be talking on draft day. So appreciate everybody tuning in. We are part of the For Frequency's Sake podcast network. So go over to the socials there and check out all of the other great shows that we have on the network. But for now, he's Mark, I'm Dan, and we'll see you next week.